Well, hello everybody. I thought that this would be really fun to do an interview with my husband because I think that, what do I think?
This is you, babe. You think that
I think that he has a good perspective to share.
Right?
Because I know that so many of you guys feel very similar, and I'm just going to make sure that we are live streaming. I see people popping on, so perfect. Okay. But I just feel like a lot of you are in the early trenches of, navigating through this business with either a supportive or non-supportive spouse. So I wanted to just interview my husband and ask some pretty real and raw questions. Hey, Kim. And really just put it all out there for you, just so that you know you're not alone and we've gone through similar things. And I wanted just to give you guys some tips on how we have gotten through some of the differences that we have gotten through. So if you're brand new to this group, welcome. This is like a coaching tips with Jackie and Frank Facebook group. If you're brand new to doTERRA in the business, go to the pin post and start working your way through the launch videos. But once you get through those, you're welcome to watch any of the lives that we do specifically for this group. So I'm going to talk to you guys, and we really have to bring ourselves back 4 years because that's when this business started. And I was blogging at the time. I'm the founder of the Paleo Mama blog, and I was blogging at the time, and I wanted to introduce a high quality essential oil to, first of all, my family. And I wasn't intending to ever do this as a business, and I absolutely wasn't going to be an MLM blogger. So that quickly changed when I fell in love with the products and saw great things happen from it. So do you remember those early days?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts about those early days, kind of when I was just getting started with doTERRA and blogging?
Are we talking about the blog that you started when we were still when I was still on active duty, or are we talking about the blog when we moved to?
When we moved.
Okay.
So I was pretty much working, would you say I was working like part-time?
Yeah, you started that blog as really just a way to have an outlet to connect with people and sort of, I guess, inspire and then also document your journey. Because I remember the reason why you got started with that whole thing was because you wanted to make the change, however many years ago now it was, to better whole food and document all of that. So I remember that. I totally remember that. And then I mean, you had been blogging then for a couple of years.
A couple of years before doTERRA.
I remember at the end of, what year was it? Maybe like 2011 or 12 or something like that. And then all of a sudden you said, because we had a rule, by the way. The rule was you weren't allowed to spend over $100 without telling one another.
And the family physician kit at the time was $150.
Yeah, so she said, well, I'm going to spend money on this, and you actually ended up using some of your blog sales for it. I do remember that. And then your oils came, and you were I remember when your oils came, I remember watching you open them up and get excited. And
you remember when I just started doing the business of doTERRA?
Yeah, but that was not for at least another 4 or 5
couple
months
after that.
Well,
you remember that, what are your thoughts about when I first started doing the business? Were you skeptical? Is that how you say it? Skeptical?
I actually was not. I remember I was not.
You knew it was a network marketing.
Well,
company.
what helped was for the 4 or 5 months that transition time between when you got the essential oils and when you first started doing the business, there was a palpable change in the family's health. You know what I mean? Folks were just doing better. And so I remember when you said, I think I should probably start selling these things. I remember that was really an easier transition for us because you didn't just...
Was I using the oils on you?
You were.
I was.
You were.
So you had seen some changes in your own...
And then the basic stuff that most significant others that aren't doing the business do. I mean, I had more energy. I mean, It was different to get used to. You diffusing oils at night, but, you know, I definitely felt like I was sleeping better. And, you know, just, I noticed a lot in our children. And so that's what really made me more and more of a believer, was the fact that, you know, you could just see it in the family.
So when I started like doing the business of doTERRA, I was working a lot of hours, especially on the computer. What were your thoughts seeing me sitting around on my computer in my PJs?
Frustrating.
You were frustrated? Why were you frustrated?
Because, I mean, I was working at the time. So
I know you guys are in the same situation, okay?
So I would come home. Now, you know, for me, the type of work that I was doing, you know, I truly enjoyed. I'm blessed to say that I loved doing what I was doing. So I know there's maybe 50% of folks out there that really have that opportunity. A lot of people are just working to make ends meet, and that's completely understandable too. But I would come home and, you know, I'd, of course, still want to kick off my shoes and relax. And sure enough, I was seeing you hanging out, playing on your computer all the time. It just felt like you were very distant.
Playing, okay?
That was my mentality. My mentality is that she was playing on the computer.
So did this cause arguments with us?
Some, not a lot. But I do remember that it was definitely some massive, like some pretty good disagreements, like in terms of like what I was misunderstanding what you were doing.
Right. And I have to say that I wasn't really good at managing my time. I would say that... No, yeah, you were working 10, 12-hour days. Guys, I was probably obsessed with the business. I worked a lot because I loved it so much. I still do. And it was really hard for me to manage my time appropriately. So we both contributed to the frustrations that we had early on. Was I making any money at the time? No. So no. You weren't seeing a paycheck coming home, but you were seeing your wife's playing on the computer a lot.
I think the way that I perceived it is that you were handling your oil addiction very well. You were able to finance your own oil addiction.
And did I remember to make dinner every single night?
Nope.
So you would come home from work with your wife.
Hungry and ready to relax. And sure enough, yes.
Yeah.
I would look at you playing on your computer.
So how did we actually get through this? Do you remember?
We had to open up. It was simple. We had to open up lines of communication. I had to change. You know, I do a lot of talks with other gentlemen and significant others on our family or on our team, and I tell them all the time that, you know, really what you have to do is you have to start off with yourself and really change your perception of what your significant other is doing. So I thought she was playing, but then when we kind of finally got down into it, I could see like what she was doing. And so I noticed that she was doing calls and talking to people and educating and doing all these other things that actually were legitimate. I mean, they were definitely something that she was doing. And so I think what we had to do is we had to just work on time management. I think once I finally got out of my own misconception, of what you were doing, we had to start talking about, okay, I get it. You're super passionate about this. And anything that you're passionate about, you know, I appreciate that and I totally support it. And so we definitely had to start sitting down, and I think we were doing it once weekly to start off with.
Do you remember what else we did for the meals problem that we had?
Oh yeah, that was easy. That was because of the fact that we had to, and we still do it even today. It was something that we haven't even actually stopped doing. And so
yeah, we
still meal plan. And so it makes it real easy to know, like, you know, you get a 7-day meal plan, you know what you're going to actually make. And quite honestly, we had to do something that was unbelievably simple too. So we ended up doing one where you can make your meals in less than a half an hour, and that works out really, really well. And it was very affordable. You used your doTERRA income for that. Even.
Back then, they didn't have like where you can pick up your groceries.
No,
4 years ago?
Not. Yeah, no, absolutely
Almost
not.
5.
Absolutely
so
not.
now, these days, we usually will download our shopping list, and I will shop on Walmart.com. Is the only one local to me that I can actually pick up my groceries.
But there are so many more. Yeah,
and there's lots of organic options at Walmart anyway now. But there's like, you know, if you're close to a Publix or I don't know if Whole Foods does it, but just check that out. That'll save you so much time, and you can pack the kids up in the back and go pick up your groceries. They even put it in the back for you. So that was one of the ways that we really overcame. Like, that was really, in my eyes, he's probably not sounding like it was a big deal to him, but that felt like that was the biggest like cause of arguments for me and, you know, and Frank, was that I felt I was working all day too.
Okay.
And he would come home and he was working all day, and then somebody had to make dinner.
Somebody had to actually be a parent at that point.
Right.
Because both of us were.
Of course, the kids were home with me all day, so he comes home and I want a break.
Yep, you had to take the old adult hat off and
Yeah.
put the parent hat on, and that caused definitely some frustrations.
So, you know, early on, probably even to the rank of gold, I don't know if Frank really, actually, this is really a good question. So, did you ever think, like, when did this business make you turn twice? Like, okay, I might want to pay a little bit of attention to what she's doing.
That I could say that was early on. Honestly, that was very early on. That was not. No, I mean, like, I had no problem getting behind you. I know that there are, you know, men and significant others out there that have no. They're very skeptical, and I mean, I understand that too.
So
I mean,
you
we
weren't
are still.
skeptical?
Well, no, because, you know, remember the type of position I came from. As a working physician assistant, I was doing a lot of different other things that I was trying to utilize with my patients, where we try to do those preventative therapies. And not to say that essential oils were preventative, but at that point, I could start talking to them more so about their health and wellness, like what a chiropractic physician would do, rather than trying to just put a Band-Aid on a problem. And so I started having this mentality of, well, before you get broke, let's ensure and do the things that you can do to try not to get broke. And, you know, if you maintain your health in that regards, then, you know, you'll have to come and see me less. Now, granted, yes, I'm putting myself out of a job, but isn't it really what I want to do? And there's so much work out there that I never really thought that I was going to put myself out of a job. So watching you embrace this was just, I felt like another step for me in that direction. Now, my story is, of course, unique and different. It's not, everybody's not the same way. But I think that as long as you can get the significant other to start understanding what their doTERRA business builder is doing, then I think at that point, then the transition can start being a little bit more smooth, because then you start becoming a believer yourself. And that actually was not hard. That was early on, noticing it in the family, even before you started building the business. You just continue to build upon that. So, I mean, I probably was behind you even when you were early on in your business.
And that's Elena asked a good question. What rank did I start to feel supported by you? And I always felt supported by Frank from the beginning. I knew that I did have my, like you said, I had my frustrations, that he felt that I was playing around on the computer, or he felt that, you know, I wasn't really managing my time. And that was all my problem, because I wasn't at the beginning.
Amen.
And so... Okay, you don't have to like rub it in.
You are fantastic now. So that was the old just getting started, Jackie. Now you are like now you are like streamlined and improved.
Yes, so I would say that I really felt Frank's support around, and my story is very different. I grew to gold pretty quickly. I was gold probably in 5-6 months. So I would say that gold rank was really where I felt like Frank was 100% behind me, because I also was making a little bit more money, and he saw that. So that was, you know, I was able to contribute to, you know, my first thing was that I wanted to be able to pay for our groceries, and I wanted to take that off of his paycheck. So I was able to do that, and that was huge for us back then, because, you know, we were aggressively paying off debt, doing the Dave Ramsey thing, And so that's probably where, I felt the most support for him. At what point did you really believe that it was going to work as a business for you? So for me, I felt that gold rank, I just have to keep saying, like, that was like the game changer for me. I don't know why. It was just really the turning point for my belief in the business, my belief in that I could do this. My team was growing, and I really felt that gold rank was what really attributed to that. So, do you remember, like, when I hit gold? And what were your thoughts about that time?
Well, we had looked at the income.
And the reason why I say gold, guys, is because I skipped silver. So I had always been placing deep when I started the business. I had lined up the builders, and I want to say like builders because some of them were more like placeholders. But I lined them up really quickly, and I started placing for gold always, like, from the get-go. So in doing that, I skipped silver completely. Yeah, I was probably silver for an hour.
Well, that was one really good strategy that you were able to do.
Yeah, I share that strategy with everybody.
Is print out like 1 or 2 ranks ahead. Because if you print 1 or 2 ranks ahead, then you'll already start having that mentality, because you have the visual cue.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is where my team needs to go in order for me to be able to have this placement strategy to attain this rank. And so you did that. So that's the reason why you were able to skip silver and go right to gold.
Yeah.
It's because all you needed was just that one last builder hitting Premier.
So how else did you, between, me starting and hitting gold, how else did you attribute to the business, or did you attribute anything at all?
What do you mean? Did I contribute?
Did you do any doTERRA?
You mean did I contribute? At that point, no. I remember that we had a conversation that, this thing is starting to get legitimate at about the level of what I said, gold. Because if you guys look up the income disclosure statement, we looked at one back in, was it 14, 15, something like that? And the income disclosure statement said that a gold makes about $50,000 to $60,000, and so for folks that are building toward that, I mean, that's legitimate. I mean, that is, if you think about it, you're above poverty level. Poverty level in America still is about 25 to 30 grand over the course of a 12-month period. So with you building toward gold, I mean, at this point, you can successfully say that you have now built what could be considered a definite, contributing annual salary. Because if you put that with your significant other and they're making $60,000 as well, you are now a 6-figure income family. And so I would definitely say that gold is probably where it started getting serious for us. And I started paying attention, and that's when I said, you know what, this is obviously about to become a legitimate thing, or this has become a legitimate thing. Not becoming a legitimate thing, but has become a legitimate thing. And it's time for me really to start paying attention.
Do you remember when I brought you to our first doTERRA event together?
Oh, wow. What was? Oh, yeah. Down in South Carolina. Right? That's what it was. Yeah, it was down in South Carolina. Yeah, that was,
remember,
was a lot of fun.
I was gold at that time.
You were.
So that was your first experience with, like, doTERRA?
That was my first experience with having found my new testosterone levels, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Testosterone. But what about the first corporate doTERRA event? That's really what I'm talking about.
I thought that was it.
That wasn't
corporate. There was an executive there, I do remember.
Okay.
I think it was something similar to a post-convention tour. Was it not?
And what did you think about that?
The room was packed, folks. So there was not they had to pull in new chairs. Like they probably had like 10, 15 rows to the back of the hotel room because it became so crowded. So, that sort of solidified like, wow, this is not just necessarily something that a bunch of crazy folks are getting together and doing. Like this seemed like it was big. It was definitely big. So I remember that. And yeah, one of the executives came out and spoke and everything.
Did your belief in the company and that this was not just another raunchy MLM, did it change at that point?
Well, yeah, it started to change. I noticed that they started getting a little bit more for the feel of the heart of company. And so, I think that they had a segment there on the co-impact sourcing. And I think that they also did something along the lines of, it was definitely something with, what was that, Healing Hands. There we go. I don't know why I was like brain farting there for a second. But yeah, I noticed that both of those were there because there was videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so doTERRA has always had a really great marketing department. And they do a really wonderful job of making sure that there's not a dry eye in an audience when you actually attend something like that. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think I was gold rank at that time. And so I asked Frank that question because I want you guys to know how important it is to get your spouses to a corporate event, because they see only one side of it as you're building the business alone, at home or, with your friends. They only see one side of it. So getting your spouse to a corporate event, and guys, there's regional events coming up. There's lots of different.
And those regional events are no
opportunity.
joke now. I mean, like they're straight education.
The
straight
The
education.
first day is Diamond Day, and the second day will be 100%
Straight
product education, which is amazing. So I think that was pinnacle in what we did. And so, do you remember I also brought you to the incentive trip?
Oh yeah, of course.
To Jamaica?
Yep.
So I won that.
Yep.
What are your thoughts about, like...
It was the second honeymoon for us.
Did you have any idea what you were getting into?
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, not at all. I didn't realize that there was going to be something like that kind of an event. So, and what person wouldn't take an all-expense paid trip to the Caribbean of any sort, right? So of course, she had to bend my arm really hard for me to say yes to that one. And we looked at it as a second vacation. And yeah, it was really nice because then at that point, of course, you get the opportunity, or I got the opportunity to really get to know more of the executives. Got to know Dr. Hill at that point. Talked with Emily Wright. Matter of fact, kind of funny, we were at the Jamaica incentive trip, and sure enough, both her and her upline, Jill Winger, get a knock on their door from somebody, maitre d' or otherwise, comes knock on the door, goes, Emily Wright wants to meet with you for dinner tomorrow night.
And of course, I was nervous. He was like, "Who's Emily Wright?"
I totally had no idea who Emily Wright was. So.
And so I'm a nervous wreck, and he's going, what is your problem? It's just another human. No, it's the best human in the world.
Well, yeah. So it's kind of tough because I come from a job that. You deal with very high-ranking individuals, and so, being in the military, it was just kind of like they put their pants on just like anybody else puts their pants on. But sure enough, of course, she was unbelievably excited about that, and so I got excited for her as well. And it was really nice to watch, her connect with Emily and really just get an opportunity to talk to a lot of people. And then at that time, I don't think we were gold, maybe.
I think we were gold.
Something like that,
Maybe had just hit diamond.
Something like that. But long story short is that it was inspiring to see all of the folks that have been doing the business and have been successful with it. So, of course, then it makes you yearn for knowing wow, these people are totally real. And they're totally not anything that you would expect. And they're totally not doing anything different than what we can be doing. And you know what? They're normal.
Yeah.
And so I looked at I'll tell you right now, we're being completely transparent here.
Yeah.
So I met Justin Harrison at the Jamaica trip, and he had I think he's got doesn't he have a whole football team now as children and something like that? So Justin Harrison, great guy, super busy with his kids, of course. Because he brought his kids with him. And he was the first time that I was exposed to anything beyond, I guess, what a presidential diamond would be. And I tell you what, Justin Harrison was absolutely no different than any other guy that I've ever met. Totally normal, totally flustered being a dad because he was trying to juggle, I think, 3 kids at the time that we were just saying hi to each other. And so I was like, you know what? I was like, this guy is completely like anybody else, and he's just super successful, and there's no reason why none of us can't be the same way. So it really puts things in perspective, especially making a corporate or being able to make an event like that. So yeah.
So other than helping me with the kids when I had an event or a class, which you were always supportive in, I think even around this point you took over the laundry because you were so tired of it.
I am not saying,
around.
Men and significant others, I am not saying that you have to clean. Okay, I'm just saying that I had no problem doing that. So you can help out in other ways. You absolutely can just simply watch the kids and allow your business partner, if you will, to go out and go do classes or to get out and go do one-on-ones. Help by creating their schedule with them. Go with your strengths. Don't go with something that you don't care to do and something that you don't think that you'll do well. So if you're not a person who cleans, guess what? If you make the kind of money and it works in your budget, why don't you get somebody to come on over and help straighten up the house every couple of days, or something like that. If that's not in your budget, then try to see if you can't work toward like maybe every Saturday, everybody just chips in and you guys all try to knock it out together, because, the philosophy that we have in our family is many hands equals light work. And, start, if you have kids that are of the age, there's age appropriate chores that they can help out with. So I did a lot of that too. My little 4-year-old, she could push around a broom. She didn't do it.
So why did you do all this when we didn't really have much money coming in from doTERRA? Because a lot of it was going back out into the business. Can I give you the corny answer? Because you love me.
Yeah. Because it was for you. Aww. And so that didn't make it hard for me to actually make that decision. And of course I would make that decision over and over and over again. So, financially has never been a motivator for me. Mm-hmm. It's always been something that...
Did you see me happier because of this?
Yes. Yep.
And so...
Happy wife, happy life.
So you are getting paid by happiness, pretty much.
Yep. Because if mama ain't happy, no one's happy.
Which brings me to my next point, was that I didn't voice a ton of my frustrations about the business at Frank. I didn't complain. I didn't, I didn't do all that because I wanted him to see the happy side of me. And I felt like that was for my upline. And if I had an issue with anything going on in the business, it was for me to, voice those frustrations to my upline, not to my husband. So I kept a lot of the early frustrations from this business from Frank, not because we don't have an open relationship, which we do, but he didn't need to be bothered with that.
Well, I also wouldn't have been good help.
And he wouldn't.
Let's face it.
He didn't even know ranks.
I very much saw her business on a very superficial level. So there's no way that I would have been able to contribute at all. And then on top of that, with me being out of the military, I would have just said, let's just do like what somebody else would do and just fire everyone and restart again. So, that's just kind of like the mentality that I had. So I know that I wasn't going to be able, I'm glad that she didn't do that, because it kept that additional dynamic of frustration out of the relationship. But in addition to, I probably would be extremely useless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, except for how to make a phone call to somebody or do something sales-wise, because I had a little experience underneath my belt, I don't think that I could have provided much other help at all. At all. So
at what point did my income actually start to, increase and almost make you wonder about the future of our relationship together?
Well, we had a conversation that once you were to achieve, if you were to achieve at that point, when we talked about it, if you were to achieve the rank of diamond, then that's the time that we need to start getting significantly serious about what is my profession going to do. And I remember that. And so once you achieve that rank, the realness of it became, and I was
we started talking about it.
Okay, I guess.
And why was that something that we wanted to do?
Well, because that financial capability would provide for time freedom.
Bringing you home.
Yeah.
Why?
What do you mean why?
Why did we want to do that?
Because what
if somebody's sitting on here and they're like, I don't want to bring my husband home?
Oh, so you're saying that, like, what if they achieve the same rank, if you will, and
that's not a thought that they have.
It's totally fine then.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Did I get the right answer
you did.
there? Yay. So, so we know of people right now that are diamonds and above that the husband or the significant other is still doing their business. Because, folks, at the end of the day, do what you love. And so you don't have to feel obligated. And I'm talking to the non-business builder side, spouse, significant other, husband, wife, whatever. Please don't feel that you have to actually stop what you're doing, especially if you love it. So we're not saying that you have to quit your job. Okay? There's a lot of folks who do doTERRA and try to achieve that success in doTERRA to be able to bring their significant other home, which is totally admirable, but it's totally unnecessary if that significant other enjoys what they do.
So we started talking about at the diamond rank, right?
Yep,
And then my income actually did surpass yours.
it did.
And then what did we say? That we were just gonna,
Well,
you were gonna quit your job?
Well, I dragged my knuckles pretty darn good.
Well, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't a flash in the pan. That
So
my
we just,
income surpassed him 1 month, but the next month it was going to drop.
It wasn't like I had my paper, or it wasn't like I had my resignation like written up or something like that.
So it was a consistent
Sure.
6 to 9 months
At least.
where
At least.
my income was more than yours.
At least.
And that it was enough for us to live on as a family.
Yep. Oh yeah. We have to. You have to look at it budget standpoint every single time, and so we look at it as a budget and said, okay, if we just simply look at her income being the only income, are we going to be able to have that quality of life that we're looking for? And so we budgeted this thing out. It took at least 6 months.
And why did you drag your knuckles?
Because I enjoyed what I did.
So why didn't you still work? Why did you want to quit?
Because I enjoy.
If you love what you do.
Because I enjoy my family more.
Okay.
I know I got the right answer on that.
No, there is no right and wrong answer.
Hey, you know what? That was pretty darn sappy, and that was really rom-com oriented. So that was a really good answer.
Another question is like, if you loved what you did you ever feel like this was a hit on the man card? Like your wife's now taking over the financial stability of the family?
No, I actually embraced it. I don't know why. I just, trust me, as being like the type of family that I grew up in, it was absolutely the husband goes out and they earn the money and blah, 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 blah. But then I started looking at it, it's just going to be more time with my kids. I get the opportunity to be able to actually like spend time with them when normally most of the time I was only getting, one job. Do you remember that one job? I worked there for 6 days, folks, because I didn't see my children once.
The whole 6 days?
The whole 6 days. They were asleep by the time I got home, and they were asleep when I left in the morning. And so that was absolutely not a hard position to let pass up, because that just really, it stunk. So knowing that I was going to have the opportunity to be able to come back, and that at that point we started talking about having a farm big time at that point, I realized that I could become more of a full-time dad, staying at home, building the homestead, building the family, building the kids, if you will. And so that's why I chose to do that. But yeah, I absolutely could go back to what I was doing because I enjoyed it a lot.
And the months after you did come home with us, was it hard for you to find your place?
I was very much so, like, I didn't necessarily know what we were doing. But we made sure that we planned for that beforehand, where I was helping you out with stuff like the back office.
And what was my rank at that time?
Well, when you came back,
when you decided to come home,
you ranked up again. She actually made blue diamond at that point.
But it was diamond, like we did say at Diamond.
It was blue. At Diamond, we said that I was going to come back.
At Diamond, he would come home, and he didn't.
And so I waited a little bit
So
longer.
he dragged his knuckles, like he said.
Hey, you know what? I'm a practical person, so you know.
You don't think that come on, be honest. You don't think that there was any fear? That's why you dragged your knuckles?
Oh, come on. Of course there was fear.
Okay, I'm just trying to get it out
Of course
of
there
you.
was fear because, unfortunately, I was also seriously, we're talking like doTERRA newbie here. So, like, once she told me that she made diamond, I remember we went out and had a celebratory lunch, and I was like, well, wait a second.
At Applebee's.
Yep, and I was like, well, wait a second, Applebee's, you're welcome for that plug right there. So, I remember that we had the conversation, and so, like, didn't you say something along the lines of like, yeah, but at the conversation you go, yeah, but it goes back to consultant again at the end of next month. And I was like, wait a minute.
He didn't know that.
I was like, you don't get to stay that rank. What is that all about? So I didn't even know about that either.
Yeah. So I was blue diamond when you came home, but you could have come home at diamond.
I totally
right?
could have. Yep.
Probably even
By the way,
platinum.
I'm gonna interrupt you for a second. Pearl, actually,
I'm getting to that.
Well, no, just to answer that quick little question that comment that came up, Pearl. We actually do the business together.
I know. I'm going to get to that.
Okay, sorry.
That's why I wasn't going to answer.
Well, I saw that
I was
because I
gonna
didn't want
answer
her
your
to.
question, Pearl. and just-
I didn't want anybody else who was possibly either watching the recording or here with us live. I didn't want you guys to think that I'm not doing the business full time with her.
No, he is now. So you came home. You had a hard time figuring out your place. And then what did you figure out? How did you fit into life at home full time with your family?
Just as much support as I could possibly. I started off with as much support as I could possibly give.
And how did you support me?
Same thing. I decided to do more chores.
Did you start doing any of the business?
Oh yeah, of course. Is that what you're trying to lead me into?
How did you start?
I started off with all the financial stuff. So like I started creating all the right answer we got. Yeah. 3 for 3.
He thinks he's going to get laid after this.
So that's a big motivator for me. So anyway, no, I started doing all the financial stuff. So I started doing all the back office things and I started creating spreadsheets. I started really working of course I became the tax. I became the tax guy, because at that point you really have to start. You have to start really legitimately looking at exemptions, and I got really smart about that stuff. So I started hunting for a CPA to help out with, and all of those sorts of things. So yeah, that was.
So you did all like the behind the scenes.
I became like the backbone.
business.
I became like the backbone of the business, whereas she was always the head. So.
Do you remember that you wanted to be incorporated into more of it? Like you wanted to start doing leadership and enrolling in classes and so how did we start you out doing that?
You actually, I think I remember you actually just simply let me start doing it on my own.
And I treated you as if you were a brand new builder, right?
As if I was a brand new builder, had no idea what was going on. So my rank was definitely not what her rank was. My rank was that of everybody else where they start. I start off as a consultant, brand new wellness advocate. Start off as the same way.
So did you get any enrollments early on?
When was my first enrollment? I mean, I definitely talked. Okay, so this is what I remember. So I remember that I talked to quite a bit of folks about the business. But yes, I definitely fell through my same frustrations. I was couldn't get people on the phone call, couldn't get one-on-ones happening. My first class was a complete bust.
It was terrible.
And it was really, there was a lot of potential and a lot of awesomeness that was going to happen, and it was completely wasted. Matter of fact, unfortunately, I do not talk to that person who we tried to do it with even today because it was just a big letdown.
It was.
It was a real big letdown.
But we've all had those.
Yeah, so I definitely got my definite shots in the gut plenty of times. And then I finally just stuck with it, and that's when the breakthroughs started happening. I started enrolling people, and who knows, maybe I'm an elite today.
How many people do you enroll a month on your own without me helping?
Now? 2 to 3?
Yep.
Right answer we get. Yeah. I do know my numbers because this one won't let me not know my numbers. So
yeah, that's definitely part of it.
So yeah, I do that, and then thankfully most of them, if not all, we try to find business builders.
So how do you fit into this business now? We are co-CEOs together, 50-50 in the business, or am I 51? You 49?
Still.
How
both legally and literally.
How do we fit in? Like, what are your roles at this point?
Why did I just immediately think of the old school, The Rock? Know your role.
Oh my gosh.
Know your role. All right. So I mean, I still kind of do a lot of what I did when we first started. I have no problem. I mean, like, I'm not a small guy, so it's not like food's ever been my enemy. And so I have zero problem cooking. Come from a family of a lot of cooks, so I have no problem cooking. We still do meal plans. We kept all of the good and moved past and are fixed, hopefully, all of the bad.
Oh, there's some we're still working on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not there yet, by all means. We're totally still not there. We still make lots of mistakes, but it's definitely been a really great journey in the sense that, I mean, now I think I've been doing this with you 3 years.
I think so. 2 years maybe.
Like 3 years. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's not been without its ups and downs. And
so what do you do? So
I still do the basics. I still will call people. I still will make contacts. I still will go out and find people. I still do one-on-ones. I still do, like I said, I still call and I text and I get my butt kicked with. I get my butt
follow up
5 for 5. So I still follow up with them. I still deal with the same frustrations where it's like, come on, seriously, like we had a great call. Will you just be quiet and come on to the team because you know that we'd love to have you? And I still deal with that same aggravation that everybody else does. So still willing to do the mundane, as you put it.
So from the outside looking in, it would look like Frank has his own team and I have my own team. And at some point we bring the team together. When Frank enrolls somebody, he takes them through, and we're mostly focused on enrolling builders at this point. And so when Frank or me enroll a builder, we take them through our own launch and we personally mentor that person. So I'd want to say that because we tried at one time, like going back and forth with people we enrolled. Like I would do a mentor call with them one day and then Frank would, and we never felt like that really built that close connection with that individual. We were constantly like going, hey, what did you talk with Frank about last week? That
was tough.
And so
yeah, that was confusing too.
Even taking really good notes, it still never felt. So now
we really did do that, didn't we?
So now, if you were to look in at our business, it would look like Frank enrolls, takes them through, and then they go into some kind of group coaching with us. But that's kind of how we do the business. We've allowed each other the space to do it our own way. So his way is very different than my way. Like, I sometimes have to walk out of the house when he's on the phone. Because I will mouth things off to him like, don't say that, no.
I thought you were just trying to say that because of how loud and obnoxious I can be on the phone.
No, you're loud too, but I'm used to that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like some of the things he would say would like, oh no, please don't say that, no, don't say that. But it's like totally okay. So I don't really think I do that much anymore. Maybe a little tiny bit.
There was definitely at the beginning, yeah, absolutely.
It was really hard for me to let go.
Yeah, she was doing a lot of the shepherd's crook thing where she was like saying like, absolutely, we don't say it like that. You don't do it like that. You don't do this, you don't do that.
Right.
And then just eventually, thankfully, you started letting me make my own mistakes. That way I could figure out what worked better next time. So,
right.
Yeah.
So how do you meet people even though you don't work now?
Oh, still the same thing that everybody does. Social events. I'm affiliated with a really great group of folks here where we live, and really just always looking for new ways. I mean, you just have to try to keep it refreshed. It helps, though, when you have a good, nice little core of folks, too, because then, of course, I have no problem asking for referrals now. And so if I can't find a referral, I'm going to ask a friend who might have a referral. Be like, listen, you've been doing this with us for a while now, and I know that you totally love it. And I know that you totally don't care to do what we do, but you do love the product and everything like that. So how about you give me 5 people and let me give them a call as well. So I get referrals through people as well.
Yeah. So if the leads ever run dry, Frank is really good.
Leads never run dry.
As long as you're willing.
As long as you're willing to call people on your 2nd tier, 3rd tier, I'm probably to my 7th tier by now. As long as you're willing to call people and ask them who they know, you still have a network. Why do you think social media works so well? Social media works fantastically well because we have friends of friends. You can actually select that as a setting in Facebook where I share things with only friends of friends. Well, guess what? I like to share DoTERRA with friends of friends. So I will ask them.
Which leads me to my next question. Do you find it different as a man doing this business? Do you find it different? I mean, can you just go up to somebody and say, you smell so good? Or you smell so terrible. Do you want to try this oil? You can't really do that with a man, right? Like, there's a whole different approach. So, like, how did you navigate that? And
Well,
what
first of
is
all-
your approach now as a man to another man?
Well, first of all, that's going to change because I plan on actually being someone who is going to market the stuff out of these oils come 2018. So get ready. All
To
right?
men or to
Because
women or to
to
both?
men.
To men.
I'm going to actually start taking that upon my shoulders. And it'll be easier because when you stand, there's a great quote that says, when you stand on the shoulders of giants, it's much easier to see what you're trying to achieve. So I have no problem doing that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You don't walk into somebody's house and be like, wow, what is that? Is that sandalwood? I mean, like we don't do that. So you know, like where do you get your sandalwood essential oil from? I got to have it. So instead, you know, you got to be a person who is just a firm believer in the product, but believe so much that you actually will go through your protocol in a public sort of way. And so I pull out roller bottles still. I have a blend that I have been making now for 5 years. And I refer to it as the Veterans Blend, and I will still pull that out of my pocket and I give them away. I totally know other veterans that I have no problem going, here, take that, you know, because you need to try this. So I have no problem doing that. It's a little bit of a less initial easy contact, but still not a problem. I mean, I do poker night, and I'll have no problem throwing a diffuser on during poker night. So I still do stuff like that. I'm not condoning gambling, by the way. We play for fun, and so we literally do whatever I can in my normal context to not feel like I am, you know, doing any type of like anything crazy. I will absolutely use it in that sort of form or fashion. So I do a lot more now where I try to go to professional organizations. You know, I try to find chiropractors, massage therapists, other folks who do body work. What's been really helpful, of course, is I got trained by Dr. Hill to be able to do aroma touch. And so when you become gold, you absolutely can do that as well. So that's always been a really great way as well, because you can use that as a springboard in a health facility where you go, you rent out that space, but then all of a sudden you find out they don't have people that have ever you know, done that. So, and I see that by the way, everybody's talking about the Veterans Blend.
Go ahead.
So the Veterans Blend is one that I designed 5 years ago. I will take full credit for that because it works out really well for me. It makes it easier now these days because you can actually
What do you
utilize
use it for?
anything anxious or depressive symptoms whatsoever. So think like anybody. Think that anybody who has, and you don't have to be just a veteran. I call it a veteran because normally most of the time a lot of those weird, wonderful mental conditions that arise happen in servicemen and women more so than they do in your general population. But you know what? Things happen in our general population as well. But that's the reason why I call it the Veterans Blend. But I started making it, what was it, about 5 years ago, and it was just simple. It was balance, vetiver, and serenity. Makes it a little easier to actually make it now with the serenity already having vetiver in it. But you know what? I add vetiver because I think of folks on a spectrum, and you got totally like, you know, think like the tortoise and the hare, right? So like some folks been experienced in something like that, some veterans act like the tortoise. And so like that might not be something where you need to actually consider the vetiver. Instead, you've got somebody like me, I'm more like the hare. And so I'm just like, go, 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 go. Don't really calm down. And so I have to add vetiver to mine. But the traditional way that I used to make it was in a 10 milliliter roller bottle. I would put 10 drops of balance. I would put 5 drops of vetiver. And then I would put 10 drops of serenity. It's changed based on the mood. I added petitgrain because petitgrain is really great for anxious feelings as well, that I've realized. Kind of smells a little manly, and jokingly, like Dr. Hill has referred to it, we jokingly call it maniver, or maniver because
maniver.
we call it maniver because it is not the floral Mavender. Thank you. I don't know why I said it wrong. But anyway, so we call it Mavender because it's, you know, not that floral, sweet
lavender
issue.
smell.
Yeah, it's not like that. So like, you know, a lot of gentlemen like myself are not going to roll out of the house with lavender smell on us. So instead, petitgrain was really nice. And petitgrain out of the bottle can be kind of stinging, if you will. But it's really nice when you add it with the balance and the serenity. It helps tone it down really nicely. Once you dilute everything in terms of the fractionated coconut oil, it is a very pleasant blend that I actually can even wear. I actually wear it even as almost like what could be considered a cologne. So totally love it, totally use it, and everything like that. So
Are we still live?
I don't know, maybe. Tell us if you can still see us, I suppose. It's saying that we're still live. Something happened with our phone. Can you just somebody wave or hit a like button or something like that? Let us know. Stop clicking or you're going to kick us
there we
off.
go.
I was about to say stop clicking or you're going to get us off of it. So you're going to do what I do.
Sorry.
But anyway, yeah, so that's the Veterans Blend, right? So I have been doing that forever now, it seems, and it is really easy to start conversations, because I have my own certain set of values and interests and stuff like that, and one of those are being able to talk to other veterans about things. So,
Good.
So that's one of the ways that I like to share as well.
Any last words of encouragement to our viewers?
Yeah, seriously, do the mundane, all right? Like, realize that some folks have done this before you, and it's not, a unprecedented journey. It's something that you can do, and so we empower you to be able to figure out how that looks for you. Do not think that this isn't for you, because you'd be very surprised. I say to people now that, essential oils are not, they're not racist, they're not sexist, they are not homophobic, they are not, they couldn't care less about where you come from. Essential oils only care about you at a cellular level, and so our cells are all still the same color and shapes and sizes and all those sorts of things. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you come from, doesn't matter your socioeconomic status. They are just here for you, and so they are applicable to anyone's lives. And so don't sell yourself short, and by all means do not say that we can't do this because of the fact that I'm a guy, or I don't know anybody, or I don't have any friends, or whatever. But by all means, stick with it, do the mundane, be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Tips for women, because there's so many women in here, who might have a unsupportive spouse or somebody who's very neutral about their business, their doTERRA business.
Be open, be honest, keep lines of communication going, and persevere again.
And practical tips, like showing the husband the income potential. Is that important?
Yeah, if they're inclined like that, you know what I mean? Like mine was more like, wow, look at the health of the family. So yes, try.
So use the products.
You know your significant other better than we do, right? They are like, if they're financially oriented, go that route. If they're spiritually oriented, go that route. If they're, they want the house to smell nice, please go that route. You know what I mean? Like find out like what drives them. You know what I mean? Almost find out like what their why is, right? To use that term. Find out what their why is so you can actually have them slowly, hopefully it takes shorter than longer, but work on trying to go to what interests them, if you will. You know what I mean? And just persevere in that regard.
And if I could say what I feel attributed to our success as a couple in doTERRA, who is now doing the business together, because of the early frustrations that you guys have and that we had, I would say the biggest factors in our success was getting my husband to a corporate event, using the products on him and my family and myself, and having a very significant health improvements that didn't happen overnight, which is why we became a product of the product before I even did the business. So we were believers in it. Given Frank space to come into the business with his own gifting, not any way that I felt he should come into the business.
Yep.
And because he's a very practical person, showing him and he's also a very personable person. Personable person? Is that how you say it?
That's, yeah.
So letting him get connected with corporate and people and letting him see that this is more than just his wife sitting at home on the couch on the computer in her pajamas with no dinner made. Wasting time playing on the computer.
Totally playing on the computer.
I was able to open up his view of doTERRA just by getting him to a corporate event. And then, of course, not complaining, not nagging to him about issues going on in the business, really keeping that more for my upline and my business partners, which he was not a part of at that point. Nope. So why burden him with all that? So
well, because we were in such a transition, the last thing that we needed was an additional, burden that I knew nothing of. So that was the last thing. Because of course, let's face it. I mean, like, it's how we're hardwired, right? So like, usually when you're doing the couple thing, like one person will be the dreamer and the doesn't, like, four walls don't contain their ideas, and will, like, just, you can't ever get them to like do anything practical or
Very funny.
So, but then you'll have the ones that are like, the super retentive and cannot do anything without a spreadsheet, and everything has to be scheduled and all that sort of. So long story short is that what I'm trying to say is that with our particular approach to that, it was nice for like us to converse in that sort of way, and where I lacked, it was nice to be able to rely on her strength. And I still don't know if you use what my strengths are, but
very funny.
I'm totally teasing. But when she felt like she wanted to be rooted, which is very seldom, she would look at me and I would be able to provide that. So that's I would say that, like, that's probably one of the biggest things that we've been able to really appreciate about going forward in this business together as a couple, is like, just we've been able to play to each other's strengths very, very well.
Yeah. Which, in a marriage, I think that's very possible for anyone who has a good marriage. You can bring doTERRA into it, use your strengths, use your giftings, and go from there. So I hope that this was helpful. Anything you want to say? We good?
Not at all. I think we got a couple of Frankisms on this one that I'm going to have to go back and watch. So I sure do love Frankisms.
Like the Myrrh one?
Like we're all the same on the cellular level.
What about the 10% off Myrrh one that you did the other day?
Oh, yeah. So, like, here's a shout out to one of our members on our team. Her name is Jenna Anderson. She adores Myrrh. And so at your classes,
she's going to be like the Egyptians. When she dies, her body's not going to disintegrate.
No,
she's
not
got
at all.
Myrrh all in it, which we know is, what is it called?
What's what?
Myrrh.
Embalming?
Yeah.
Embalming?
So you know how they used to embalm with myrrh? Yeah. So Jen,
so
you're once you beautiful.
So the cliche, folks, and here's another Frankism for you, is once you go myrrh, you don't go back der.
Which I think is so dumb.
But hilarious at the same time.
So anyways, have a wonderful, wonderful day. I really hope that this recorded. So I really, really pray it did. But if it didn't, then everyone who joined live got to see it. So add your husbands to the group if you want him to watch this. And Frank's always a good sounding board for the husbands. So thanks so much, guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.